Hello, 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 everyone. Hi, welcome to the first ever. Listen, this is the first one, Girls Talk. Oh, yes, baby, we having Girls Talk, the process of transitioning, part one. I am your moderator, Monroe Alice, and tonight this is a safe space. Tonight you will be educated. Tonight you will be informed about our personal transitions, our own process, our own journey through our own experience. I want you to know that strong language will be used during this, so parental discretion is advised. So let's just jump right into it. I'm truly honored to even be a part of this, and I want us to start with our first panelist. Now, this woman here, I love her. I love her to pieces. Consuela Lopez. She is one of the most amazing people that I know and had the privilege of working with. And because this is live, honey, the absolute bio has disappeared. But I'm so glad because I want this to be as authentic as possible. And I want to learn as much about you, the things that I don't know. So without further ado, I give you guys Consuela Lopez.
Hi,
Please.
everybody. Hello. My name is Consuelo Lopez, and I'm originally from Nicaragua. I came to America in 1981 with my family, and I landed in Washington, D.C. in 1983. I'm a transgender woman. I transitioned in 1992 here in Washington, D.C., and I am so excited to be a part of this panel discussion tonight. A little bit of my background is I am a celebrity hairstylist. I have a very extensive clientele of celebrity. I have own a small business in Bethesda, and I'm also a board member, ex-COO of Casa Ruby. And I am so happy in here and to be here with everybody. And thank you, Monroe. I, I'm trying to think what else to say, but
Well,
I'm
I
just
want. Well, since I have you for this, for these couple of moments, tell me how was it transitioning? Just the earlier part of your transition. Tell me about how it was for you transitioning briefly before we like dive right into.
so let me be. I'm gonna be 100% honest in
This the
in this
safest
on
room
this
to
girl
be in.
talk,
Go
right?
ahead.
So the first trans, I didn't really know that I was trans. I just, my mom never was the kind of person that was like, don't sit like that, don't do this, sit up straight. She never did that, so she always embraced me.
Hmm.
And I just didn't really know exactly what I was until I was the age of 15, where they pulled me aside, her and my siblings, and they said, we hear you're gay. And I was like, well, and at 15 years old, you have all these weights, like everything, like
Hmm.
on your shoulders. And I remember answering the question 100% because I didn't think that my mom was going to throw me out, disown me, or hit me, or beat me, or anything. And I answered the question really honestly, and I said, "Mom, I don't think I'm gay." I said, "But I know I like men." And she's like, "Honey,
Wow.
you're gay." And I was like, "Okay, right." So then, until I went and transitioned, and like, I remember seeing my first trans girl. I went out to the stroll. My friends, I was 15, again, was out, and my friends took me downtown, down to K Street.
Hmm.
And I saw the first girl, and her name was Debbie. And I remember I was so fascinated that I was like, "Oh my God, somebody could actually be born male and now look like a female." So I ended up working at this salon called ENF, and I don't know if a lot of people know Anne. Her name is Anne. They called her Miss Anne Klein. And I worked with her from the age of 15 all the way until the age of 24. So she sort of took me under her wing, and she sort of, it was a little bit abrasive at first when I was like, I wanted to know what is it that she was doing. Um, but she was very helpful and detrimental in my transition, where she showed me the route. She showed me exactly, who to go to, what doctor to go to. So by the time I was 16, 17, I was already like, cross-dressing, and I fully transitioned March 2nd of 1992. Because when I went to the famous Dr. Masinden, I was like 16, 17, and I went and I was like, I want hormones. And they were like, well, you need your parents' signature. And my birthday's February 19th. I didn't go to my mom and I was like, Mom, I want these hormones. I didn't do that. So my birthday's February 19th. March 2nd, I was at his door knocking saying, I'm 18. And he gave me my first hormone shot and he gave me a prescription and I was off to the races. I
Well,
was so
that's
happy.
awesome. That is awesome. Okay, well, we're going to dive into definitely more about the hormones and just the overall transitions and what that entails for you and your own experience. But I want to bring on another one of the panelists. And this young lady, I had the honor and privilege of actually meeting, and she's a sweet spirit. She is also the lead linkage to care navigator at Heart to Hand Inc. At Heart to Hand, she serviced the Prince George's County, focusing on all of their public health needs. She is originally from Virginia, but moved from Atlanta 3 years ago to DC. And without further ado, I give you Kanaya Walker.
Hello.
Kanaya, hi. Oh, you look so
Thank you.
beautiful.
Hello, everybody.
So, how are you, dear? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Listen, I'm hanging on. I can't complain. I'm really excited about this talk. I'm really, really excited about this and to get to know a little more about you. So, I mean, is there anything that you want to tell the people, or you too can answer? How was it? Or tell us a little bit about your transition and your process.
Well, for me, I grew up in like a little small town when I was younger called the Eastern Shore of Virginia. A lot of people probably don't know about it. They only know about the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So, like me growing up, like I never knew what trans was or anything like that. Like I knew that I felt like a girl. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that pretty much like my family knew that. Like Consuela said, my mom never ridiculed me, like no matter what anybody might say, oh, stop holding your hand like that, stop doing this, stop doing that. My mom never done that. And I kind of feel like that she probably knew, but she
Mm-hmm.
probably didn't even know what it was. So fast forward to I came out and I did say that I was gay. So fast forward to like my first year in college. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my first year in college, mind you, I never been to a gay club. Like I never knew anything. I never knew about trans. Like only thing I saw was like my grandma watching Jerry Springer. And I used to always be like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that. So when my first year at Norfolk State, I haven't had transition yet. So I met a guy, he took me to the clubs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I would see people dressed up and things like that, but I never knew that it was trans. And I remember I met the first time I seen the first trans that I've ever seen was Barbie Miss Rahi, Miss She Rest in
Mm-hmm.
Peace. So when I
Mm-hmm.
seen her, I'm like, oh my God, like, and then they started telling me, that she was trans, or like in the ballroom scene, they started saying that she was a femme queen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh my God, like you really, really can do that? Like, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
you really could do that. So still going on and on. I had like another friend, we both haven't had transition. So we started dressing real feminine. We still didn't
Okay.
know that we could be trans.
Okay.
So I remember people used to always be like, oh, if you was a girl, this is when I'm in the scene. They would be like, oh, if
Mm-hmm.
you was a girl, oh, you would be kind and this and that. So in my mind, I'm still like, no, because like I'm in college. So, I'm
Right.
kind of still
Right.
quote unquote on the DL. So I remember the first summer that I left school, I stayed with my sister for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister can really dress. She's really pretty. So I always like looked up to like my sister or whatever. So I stayed with her and I used to get her clothes. And like when I met my gay friends, I started dressing up. And I remember me and one of my friends, named RJ, RJ Carrington, RJ Balenciaga. I remember I had dressed up. We had walked to 7-Eleven, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
fast forward to all of that, then I started thinking like once I started having the resources and started knowing what I could do in
Mm-hmm.
my mind, I still was kind of confused. I'm like, is this? I knew how I felt. Like I
Mm-hmm.
always felt like this, but in my mind, I'm like, is this something that I really, really want to do? So even
Mm-hmm.
before like I went and got my first surgeries or whatever, like,
Okay.
well, back then people was getting pumped with silicone.
Pumped. What do
So
you mean pumped? What do you mean
pump
pumped?
getting silicone injections.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I first got my face done, then I got my body done. But still, before I went to get my implants, This was
Mm-hmm.
like in 2009, 2010,
Okay.
like before, like when I first moved to Atlanta, like my mom passed or whatever. And I remember my mom always telling me that no matter what I do, like she's always gonna love me or whatever. So I'm still battling back and forth. I'm like, is this something that I really, really, truly, honestly want to do and live the rest of my life? And I never forget, like my older brother, we always been close, and he was like, whatever you do, I'm still gonna love you, whatever, whatever. And just me getting his approval alone, it was kind of like, okay, well, let me just go ahead and do it. So I went and got my surgery or whatever the case may be. But throughout this journey, like I have met a lot of people who has guided me. Like I've met a lot of great people like London, Dorisha Lou,
Oh.
like, so it's like I have met a lot of people. So me transitioning, it really wasn't hard. Even like with my family, I was the one that was always afraid to go home because it was like, okay, well, what are they going to say? They will always tell me, like, okay, just always come home no matter what. But in my mind, it was me, it wasn't my family.
Oh,
So, it's
wow.
all in all, everything was good. Everything is good.
Well, that is awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you're a part of this panel discussion. And as you see, the people are too. And I can't wait till we all dive in. This next young lady that I want to introduce, I have not had the privilege of meeting her. And I'm interested and curious to know more about this young lady. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce Dolly Lee.
Hello.
Hi, how
Hi,
are
how are
you?
you?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
I'm doing all right.
That's
I'm
I
doing
love
all
that
right.
color, honey. I love that
Thank
color.
you. I'm trying to do something new. Something new.
It's working. It's working. So tell me about your transition. Tell me a little bit about you. How are you? How has it been? Like the process for you?
With my transition and has been a great journey. I take pride in being a proud trans woman of color.
Yeah.
A trans woman, a woman period that's out here and able to live my own lifestyle and be a walking example. I pride myself on that. Growing up, I should say I had a very normal life. I was fortunate to be raised by a wonderful grandmother who's still living. She's 95. Um,
Awesome.
and my aunt, who's no longer here, who stepped
Hmm.
in as my mother figure, those two people raised me. And my aunt, she didn't have any children, so I was
Hmm.
gifted to her to be that child for her. So I actually had a good amount of love growing up,
Are you
but a
from
good amount of
DC?
confusion. I
Are you
should
from
say.
Are you from here?
Yes, I'm from here. I'm
Okay.
from Washington
Okay.
D.C., born and raised. I graduated from Bowie State. Not Bowie State. I graduated from Bowie High School, but I
Oh
graduated
wow.
from Seattle University.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
growing up as a young Alana, that's my government name, Alana. Growing up
Okay.
as a young Alana was confusing, but at the same time, it was just like, I guess this is what my purpose is because I don't think it would be no other way. I didn't see myself transitioning. It was just like a natural flow of things.
Mm.
Running into certain people, I feel as though they were set in my path for me to meet them and to see the
Wow.
example of them. Um, DC itself has so many examples of wonderful trans women and a lot of trans women that I look up to, such as everybody on this panel is definitely an
Oh.
example of what DC possessed, as far as strong, powerful Black trans women of color of any, I'm saying, genre. So growing up, I had examples of Big Keisha and Deja and Little Deja, and I had examples of Sabrina Icon and Paris from Baltimore, Monique, and all these different women who had a staple and a stamp into basically the history of trans women, the history of what I was grew up around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was fortunate enough to be able to explain that I wanted to be a girl to my grandmother, but
Mm-hmm.
she already knew. I mean, like, she already knew. It didn't phase her. Also, I was definitely what they label a church queen growing up. I was in
Oh,
heavy into the church. But it's
okay.
crazy because I did everything masculine, but I was feminine. I wanted to be the
Mm.
junior deacon. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be in the usher board. I wanted
Okay.
to, sing in a choir. I played basketball. I played football. I played all these sports, but I was always identified as a different gender, somebody
Mm.
different. And I never
Gender.
could put the conclusion together until I came around and I actually was able to see example of what I wanted to be like. And
That's awesome.
that's
That
who I
that's
that's what's molded
awesome.
me into who I am today. It's definitely helped me be able to take on working in a society that is changing, an environment that you have to
Absolutely.
sometimes bite your tongue but sometimes also speak up. um
Absolutely.
it challenged me in all kinds of way, and I definitely have to give props up to all the staple women in the DMV area that has molded me into the trans woman that I am today, because I don't think a lot of people was fortunate to have those type of people in their city, but I
Mm-hmm.
was, and I took advantage of that.
Well,
And
thank you. Thank you. That
I
is
definitely,
awesome.
I'm glad I'm on this platform. This is something completely new for me. I never did
Yay.
this stuff
Well,
before,
listen,
so
that's
like,
what this
y'all
is
gotta
about.
bear
Listen, this
with
girls'
me.
talk here is definitely going to be an eye opener, but it's definitely going to be a conversation amongst the girls. And I'm truly honored to have you a part of this. And I can't wait to learn more about you with all of the girls intact. And I'm so glad that you touched on gender roles being assigned. For me, my transition began. At a later in life, I was 29 when I decided that I wanted to start medically transitioning via hormones. And,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. I didn't know that there was a difference. Gender roles was assigned to me at such an early age. I have an older brother and a younger brother. And, when in the house, everyone uses the same bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everyone uses the same bathroom, child, adult, male, female. So I didn't know that there was a difference until I went to elementary school. And me and the girl that I was friends with, that was like my best friend at the time, Sarah, it was bathroom break time. And so as we were playing and lollygagging, and I was following her to go into the bathroom because that was my sister, that was my girl, that was me, that was us. And they told me, no, boys go over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I knew, well, dang, there's something different about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to be able to express our different experiences from our perspectives.
Perspective.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, and so with that being said, that brings me to this last wonderful woman that made all of this possible to even have this conversation. I have the honor and privilege of calling this woman my sister, my friend, honey. And I'm just truly, truly grateful to even know you. And I thank you for even allowing me to be a part of this tremendous opportunity, the start of something great. And without further ado, I give you Miss Charmaine Eccles Gosson.
Hey,
Ah! Hi, sister.
what's up?
How are
I'm
you?
great, and yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Listen, I want to first thank you for even allowing me this opportunity and truly being able to call you my sister and my
Thank
friend.
you.
And I'm eager to learn more about you. I feel like I know a lot about you, but you're always breaking a new layer every time we have a conversation. So for the people that don't know you and the people that may not know as much about you as I do, please tell them all that you do and all that Miss Charmaine is.
Well, I am a native Washingtonian. I'm 38 years old. Um, I grew up in a house with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably like almost like 16, 17 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot going on.
Wow.
But you know what? But we were all comfortable. But I think probably out of everybody, I may have been one of the most uncomfortable individuals that lived in that house because I mean, I was feminine growing up. I had feminine tendencies growing up, and sometimes I would be called gay. I would be called the F word.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I was always confused because I will be like, well, I mean, I know how I may look like, but I'm a woman. So how, if I'm attracted to men, then how is that gay? If I'm a girl and that's a boy, then that's not gay.
Exactly.
So I did hide it for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
a very long time. So I bushed it up and start going to go-go's, start hustling on the streets, start
Hey.
being thuggy with the boys and stuff like that. Um, and one day I remember, because I used to hustle, I had been incarcerated numerous times for selling drugs.
Mm.
Um, I remember one day I was on the block on 9th and Kennedy, uptown,
Mm-hmm.
and this girl, because at that time, I was bisexual and I
Okay.
was attracted to women. So this girl had walked up and she was like really pretty, and she had a nice little physique, and I was looking, I was like, God damn, she fat as shit. So then, one of my, then I was trying to talk to her, and I was like trying to give her my number. But then one of my mans that came over, you was like, that's a man, and I was like, no, that's not no. What are you talking about? Because back then, majority of the trans women who they were portraying in the media and stuff like that were not that passable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, I was astonished by her beauty, and this was like, it was like an aha moment, like, oh my God, one day I can be like that. So for a very long time, I sat back and I started befriending. Well, I didn't come up for myself. Everybody knows that my sister came out for me. Was my grandmother heard me on the phone talking to this boy one day, and then she went and told the whole family that I was talking about giving head and all this other kind of stuff on the phone, and then my family
Interesting.
told me that it was a secret with us, and then it just went and blew out. So I came out, and I started meeting a lot of trans women. So then I remember going down to K Street, and I would see all these beautiful women, but they were born male.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is where I need to be at. So which eventually started me, back then I was dressing up. I was not actually living my life as a woman.
Okay.
I call it a trial run. And I had got caught up in the
Good one.
game because back then I knew that my purpose on this road is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I've always felt that I was destined for greatness. And
Absolutely.
like back then, I was living a lifestyle of sex, money, and drugs.
Mm.
And I did not become no girl. And don't get me wrong, I don't knock when no one does. But I just know that sex work was really not for me,
Mm.
which almost led to my ultimate death.
Mm.
I was prostituting. Um, when I did start my transition,
Mm.
5 years ago, actually.
Mm.
And like some months later, like 4 months after my transition, I had needed some money to get some clothes for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going out on Eastern Avenue, and it was just so dark and gloomy. And it just kept feeling like someone was watching me or following me, but it was really no
Mm.
other girls out there. And I just kept remember like turning my head around and was like, I started to feel like somewhat a sense of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So then this guy had walked past me and looked at me. It was common, just like everybody's wearing masks now. It was like
Mm-hmm.
February was in the middle of winter time, so it was common for a person to
Those
wear a
face
mask.
masks.
And so
Yeah.
then next thing you know, I feel something on my back, and I just hear a voice coming from behind me. Was like, "Give me everything you have." Now, for some of those who know me, I always carry like my purse on my shoulder, so he was pulling
Mm-hmm.
my purse, but I thought it was one of my girlfriends
Mm-hmm.
playing or something. So I kind of like pulled it back, and that's when I'm being shot, and I'm on the ground, and I'm looking up, and I was like, "Oh shoot, this is the guy who just shot me."
Oh
Um,
wow.
but from then, I was invited to a panel, a town hall meeting by Lord Hunter and Ruby Corrado,
Mm-hmm.
to speak at this summit about violence against trans women.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of that, a lot of people started reaching out to me. It was like, I want you to speak and all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, well, what did I do? I would just, tell them about my experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I found my calling for advocacy.
That is
Um,
awesome.
yes. And I have been an advocate for the past like 3 years, but like this past 2 years, I have been going like full throttle. I sit on plenty of boards in the Washington D.C. area, which include Center for Black Equity. I'm a member of CDG Pro. I'm also the only trans person on the Mayor Advisory Board here in DC, to the Office of
Wow.
LGBTQ Affairs. And
That's
so, I mean, I just be doing my thing, and I just remember that one moment of liberation, September
awesome.
15th. My aunt had died, so I was really, really depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember waking up because I was up for like a whole week, like going at it strong. And then I had woke up, and then it was just like a voice was like, "Stop running from yourself."
Mm.
And I remember going to that bathroom, and I had like a really thick beard, and I remember getting
Okay.
clippers, cutting my beard off. I ran up to Ashley Stewart and Hector Jamal, got me some girl clothes, and it was Scott's that was next door to them, and got me 2 wigs and some makeup, and I stayed in the house and played. And I had an appointment with Erlene because I told her I wanted to be a girl.
Mm.
So then I remember that day, I'm going to my appointment, and I remember coming out of my apartment door because I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. And so then I was like, oh shit, okay, the coast is clear. So then I had went to my front door. So where I lived at was an apartment complex, Fairway Park Apartments, newly
Mm-hmm.
renovated. First person in my unit since they did this big renovation. And I was right next
Mm-hmm.
to the rental office. So I was like, if I come outside, they will see me. So then I opened up the door, and I experienced the best feeling I ever had in my life. The biggest burden was released from me. I felt as though that I was free, and Charmaine came to life. Even
That
though,
is awesome. Okay,
okay,
so
so
that
it was
moment of
really,
liberation. No, that is fantastic. I
yes,
want so that's the perfect way to bring in the other girls. I want to bring in the remaining of the other girls, Dolly. I'm gonna bring Dolly back and Consuela and Kanaya. And let's talk about that moment of liberation. You know,
yes.
we talked about the earlier part. What was that one moment, that first moment of liberation in your transition that really was like the freeing of thyself? Consuela, you want to go?
Yeah, I think I'm getting attention from what I liked. you know and again, like, there was a part that when I told my mom I was 15, I was like, Mom, I don't think I'm gay. I was like, but I know I like men. Well,
Okay.
later on, after my psychiatric evaluation, I remembered that I was like, why did I say that? Why did I Here I was, a young little feminine boy at 15, and I'm
Right.
telling my mother, I don't think I'm gay, Mom, but I like men, right? And I remember
Mm.
because they asked you, when was the first time you ever came out to your mom? When was the first time you came out? And I was like, this was what happened. When I had the psychiatric evaluation, they were like, well,
Mhm.
duh, you were answering like a female.
Okay.
Mm.
And it sort of clicked, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, it made everything make sense because here I kind of did it backwards. I transitioned without a psychiatric evaluation. I took the
Yeah.
hormones I started having. I got pumped.
Huh.
I started getting work done.
So that's
I
the
had
we're
my
talking
first
surge. We're talking
Yeah,
surge.
I had my first surgery at
Okay.
18, which I was like, okay, this is it, full throttle, right? I got to finally to a point where I was happy with myself. I looked good. I liked
Okay.
who
Well,
I
hold on.
saw
We're
in the
going
mirror.
to talk about surgery, Consuela. Consuela, we're going to talk about surgery.
Okay, so you want me to start talking about surgeries now, or?
Yeah.
Now let
Hold
the
on,
other girls talk about their
Oh,
Consuela.
moment
We're
of
going
okay.
to talk about
liberation.
surgery because that's a major part. I believe about our transitions, but I want to talk. I want to know. I'm interested to know.
Uh-oh.
No, no, no. I want to know about the liberating moments for Kanaya and Dolly.
Okay, I can go for. I can
What
go
was that
first.
one liberating moment like
I'm.
that
I
was like
mean,
ah
your phone breaking up. Okay,
finally.
I know what you're saying, so I can go next. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me to believe it or not, I'm not gonna tell my age, but what I can say is that like my most liberating moment was probably like almost 2 years ago. As long as like I've transitioned, like my most liberating moment probably was like me like starting to work, like going from the
Yes.
DC health department and then going into heart to hand. Like I feel like that me working for heart to hand like was my most liberating moment, honestly. So, like, no matter what, like, I will always be like forever grateful to Heart to Hand because it was like even me doing the kind of work that I do, like, even being on this platform, like, in a million years, I would have never thought that I would be doing this because, like, I did sex work for so many years, not even because I had to, because I had an education and everything. It was just because I love money. And I felt like that being trans, that was what I was supposed to do. So even now, like working at Heart to Hand, I feel like that everybody at Heart to Hand, like they just have given me a platform because if it wasn't for Heart to Hand, I wouldn't even be here right now on this platform. So I feel like that my liberating moment was like the first day that I walked into like Heart to Hand because like they are open, like they encourage me to do so many things that I would never ever.
So so what,
What you
Donnie?
was
So
about to
what about yours?
say?
I'm sorry.
What about your most liberating moment that you ever experienced?
I say my most liberating moment had to be, I think I was 15, and it was Christmas.
Okay.
And my grandmother, of course, she's still to this day likes to play Santa. So she got all these gifts, and I'm sitting here thinking like, child, I'm gonna have to turn like I'm gonna have to refund all these gifts or give them to somebody. I don't want none of these boxes or socks or t-shirts or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just know that's what was going to be in these boxes. And I say the most liberating when I knew for a fact that I was going to be appreciated for who I was in the lifestyle that I'm deciding to take is when I opened up them gifts, and there was my very first sports wonder bra, whatever those bras was back in the day from Target that had the little cross straps. She had bought me like five of those, and she had bought me some boots from, I don't even know if that it's this magazine called like uh pizza hexa something like that, one of the old fashioned magazines. And she had circled all these boots, and she was like, I don't know if you wear high heels or short heels or whatever it is, but this is what, you know what I'm saying, you pick out some shoes and I'm gonna get it for you. And at that moment, I knew for a fact that she accepted me because she was getting me prepared for my first job, which was at TJ Maxx, and she allowed me to go into my first job as a girl. And that's when I knew that I felt so good. Like I felt like, wow, this is really happening. I'm like my very first job and I'm going in as a girl. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't even have a girl name yet. Like, I mean, like, what's my name going to be? I'm trying to figure out all this stuff. I'm still going by my, like, natural born name and everything like that. I haven't figured out anything, but she just made me feel so comfortable that I could, like, I was like, all right, I'm here. I've arrived.
Mhm.
In my Nene Leakes voice.
Okay. Well, just to because I talked about the liberating moment, but another liberating moment was for me was when I was at DC Superior Court, and I had went through the gender change, which was very easy. You can just get a paper from like a case manager or something. They sign it. They can go and change it on your ID like that. You don't need no signatures from no doctor or anything like that. But in the process of taking my name, getting my name changed. Now it was a process over a year, and I could have been had my name changed twice before I even actually got it changed. I kept missing my court date. And I think it was a reason why I kept doing it because I don't know if I was kind of like scared or because like I really didn't know. I was trying to really figure out a middle name. And still to this day, I don't have a middle name. And so I was just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to be Charmaine, Charmaine Eccles. So then I remember going to the court building and I met with the judge. I went before the judge, and then he was like, I grant you your name change, and you are now Charmaine Eccles. And I was so proud. And I went and immediately went to my job because I was working for 311 operations, DC 311 at the time. And I gave them my paperwork, even though DC government always acknowledge your first name like in the system, but the only thing they didn't do was on payroll. But like in their system, touch point, everything else, like my ID had Charmaine on it. But now officially when my check is being issued or my direct deposit was being issued, I seen Charmaine
Yeah.
on there. And I was like, okay, Charmaine made this coin.
That is
Okay.
awesome. I don't know. I'm having these technical difficulties, but this is horrible. But we're gonna ease it right along anyway. So I wanted to talk to you guys about surgery. You know, a lot of people often
Mm.
believe that surgery has to be a part of the process, or surgery is what makes trans women, or surgery is something that is necessary, or that it defines us. And oftentimes I have had thoughts about different surgeries, and am to this day contemplating different surgeries. And so I wanted to open up and throw out to the group about surgeries and the different modifications that we have either thought about including in our process or have actually done in our process, and if we plan on getting any more, or if there are some that we regret, and or if there's some that we wish that we could do differently. And I wanted to open that up, and I want everyone to remember that this is a safe space, and um, please feel free to share as much as you would like.
Okay. Who
So
want to
I
go
can
first?
start, right? I'll start. Um, so when I was 18, I was right. I was in survival mode, and that meant a whole
Mhm.
lot, right? I was on the train, on the way, being in survival mode, and the first surgery that I had at 18, because again, my mother gave me the green light, um, I started having transitional surgeries right at 18. And I really didn't know what it was that I was about to get. But when I went to the plastic surgeon, and it was in October, if you hear, like, I started March, by October, um, I went to the doctor and I was just like, I want to look like a girl. And he was very, very shocked. Transitional surgeries were not available in 1992. Um, and if you did, you had to have all these like a doctor, psychiatrist, all this, and it was hard. So I remember that I knew that when we went to New York to a ball, there was like 16, 17, 18, same age as me, and these girls that were fully transitioned with big boobs and like they looked like females, and I just was like, what are they doing? What did you do? Like, what were they doing? And as everything unfolded, I knew that the dysphoria, right, was real because I didn't want to look like myself. And I wanted to appear more feminine, right? Um, and I didn't necessarily understand the difference in genders. I just knew that I didn't want the flat chest. I knew that I wanted some hips. I knew that I wanted some ass. Um, I knew that changing my facial structure would make me look different than the person that I was before. Um, with that being said, I ended up having quite a few surgeries before the time I was 19. Um, the weird part is that my mother was 100% accepting, 100%. But when it came to get some boobs, she was like, honey, that's too close to your heart. She was like, that's too close to your heart. But she didn't understand, right? So because she didn't understand, and she was like, now that I won't allow you to do. But mind you, I'm getting the nose, I'm getting like the buckle, I'm getting, I'm getting all this other stuff done, and it didn't matter, right? It didn't matter to her. But I was like, well, but the only thing that was left was the boobs, right? And at 18, 19, um, me and my friends at that time, we were in survival mode and we were working sets, as they would say, and we were getting things done, right? But that was the one thing that I could not get done. So I snuck behind my mom's back and I started going to New York to get pumped, right? Um, and slowly but surely, as
Okay.
I got to a point where I had gotten the surgeries done, I still hadn't told my mom. I still hadn't come out and said, Mom, I'm trans, I'm a woman. She just said, I know what you're doing. She goes, You don't think I see those hormones in the bathroom? And she was like, You don't think I know what those pills are? And I was like, Oh my God. I was like, Is this it? And then going back to that liberating part, she was like, Well, go ahead. She goes, Let me see what you look like. Right? And that was my moment of
That's
finally
awesome.
getting it all together, right? And it all finally came together because during the day I wasn't dressing up. I'd wait till nighttime. So during the day, it just was, it was all weird. And I ended up getting,
Mm-hmm.
once I got the approval, like there was no turning back. And then I ended up wanting to get more and more boobs because I
And
wanted the bigger boobs. I wanted.
surgeries are things are sometimes lifelong. What about you, Kanaya? Is surgery or was surgery a part of your transition?
Okay, well, for me, like, I'm not gonna take too much time up, but for me personally, like, when me coming from where I came from, Virginia, the thing to do was like get pumped, get illegal silicone injections.
Okay,
So
because for the people that don't know what pumped is, can you allow us? Can you break it down?
it's it's illegal silicone injections.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like some of the celebrities get it all the time. So,
Mm-hmm.
like for me, it was like when I first came out, it was like, oh, you need to get your face hit one time, or you need to get your apples hit one time. And me coming out, like I didn't know what that meant. So I did. I got my face done like twice. And
Mm-hmm.
and this is the thing. So anybody watching can listen. I got my face hit twice, $50, two times. That's $100.
But it's you
So
can get the screaming.
So
Wow.
$50 two times. So like like when I first got it done, yeah, it was cute, whatever, whatever, whatever. I got my body done too. Those were the first two things that I got done, but they both was illegal. So like
Mm.
coming up throughout all the years or whatever, it's still kind of like okay, whatever. But one thing I always said was that I would never get breast or anything else ever done again unless I was able to get it done in the United States. And that is what
Mm.
I did. So fast forward to throughout the years, like I mean, I have pictures where like some of the pictures that I see now versus some of the pictures that I seen from before to now, it's like I looked a lot older because throughout time the silicone expanded to the point where it's
Mm.
like you would have thought I got pumped so many times and I only got pumped two times for $50 a piece, $100. So
Wow.
when I came back to DC, probably like 3 years ago, I just had silicone removal like 2 years ago or whatever. And like
Okay.
now, like it's a whole totally big difference. But what I can say is that it's like from back then to now, I feel like that everyone should take their time. And I know that like in this day and time, you have new girls transition and stuff. So everybody want to have like all this body and all of this stuff. And I think that kind of like stimulates from the scene. And I think that people just have to understand that it's like even women, all shapes, different sizes, whatever. So
Absolutely. And you a process. It's definitely a
yeah,
process. And what I want to say is that, their experience and from their perspective, it has all been a process that the transition wasn't overnight and the transition has not been overnight, but it's definitely been a process. So, Dolly, how about for you? What about you?
Um, for me, oh, just a disclaimer because somebody texted me and said, "Well, I'm not looking at the camera." I actually am. You know what I mean? I got to do it that way because I'm blind, so I can't really. I got
Uh,
to get an up close personal view. But For me, oh gosh, I've had quite a few surgeries. Not a lot, but
Okay.
my very first, I did have starting hormones and only was on hormones. I did have my breast tapped before I had got my implants. And I had everybody used to think, oh, you know what I'm saying, how the hell you get those big hormone titties and everything, not knowing I had my chest pumped. Um and in 2015, I went and had silicone removal from my breast and implants put in, and I had a facial
Okay.
film. Um, yeah, I had a facial film and implants put in all at the same time. Um, for me, I did
Mm-hmm.
not expect that silicone removal from my breast would be so dramatic.
Mm.
It was very
Mm-hmm.
dramatic for me. And even though it was a small amount in my
Mm.
breast, that small amount that I had got from in 2009 or 8, whenever that was, had expanded and
Mm-hmm.
it had moved in so
Mm.
many different ways in my breasts. And I'm like, child, my hormones done cover that up and
Mm-hmm.
did this and that. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, I'm jiggly, like this feels like it's flesh, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And when the doctor was explaining to me, he was like, you know, since it's not so much, I could work with that. I'm gonna let you know I'm going to try to scrape out as much as I can and put a bag in there. But if I open you up and it's I can't do nothing, I'm letting you know I'm going to take everything out and I'm not going to put a bag in.
Mm.
So me having that surgery and having face work surgery at the same time, it did something to me waking up. When I woke up, and this happened in Florida, and
Mm.
if anybody has been had surgeries in Florida, we y'all all know how they do you in Florida. You get your surgery, you was on the corner. You was on the corner in less than an hour. Like right after that's it. You gotta pay for all that extra stuff. And they don't tell you none of that because you have to inquire about it.
Mm.
So I had woke up
Mm.
from my surgery and I remember I could not breathe because I had rhinoplasty as well. And I remember I could not breathe and I kept saying, okay, I know they did something to my face. So I felt around. I said, okay, I see they did something to my hairline. I felt around. I said, okay, I
Mm.
see they did this. When I looked down, I said, something ain't right.
Mm.
I was like, something is not right. This is not what I asked for. Like, this ain't it. And the doctor told me, he was like, you have to come back. And I came back, you know what I'm saying? I stayed and I came back. And when he opened me back up, he said, I'm going to go ahead and put the implant, but I'm not giving you what you asked for. And I said, so I can't have the 600cc that I
Mm.
wanted. I wanted the big breast. And he said, no, I'm going to start. He was like, if you want big breasts, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to let you know right now, I'm not going to do that. You could go to somebody else that could do that. But my comfort zone is starting you off with 475 in one breast and 450 in another one. And only because I was not able to scrape out majority of the silicone in one breast. So I have to balance everything out. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna have to get your breast
Mm. Well,
redone. Be- I'm sorry.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And
excuse me.
he
I'm
was
sorry.
like, he was
Thank you
like,
for
I'm gonna tell
that.
you right now, in a
Charmaine, did
couple
you
of
want to
years,
touch in
you have to get
on
your
the surgery?
breast redone. And I said, why? He was like, because it's not going to be the same
Mm-hmm.
shape. You're not going to be happy with it, but this is what I'm going to
Yeah.
do for
Mm-hmm.
you and everything and make sure it balances out. Couple of years, like a year go by, I was at my mom. Shout out to my
Right.
mom, Therese. I see her
Oh.
watching the live. Um, I was at my mom's house and my mom said, let me see your breasts. And I said, she said, when you going back and get them done? I said, soon. She was like, you need to. It's like, okay. And so, that's what I did and everything. And I got it balanced out. I also had a BBL. And right now I'm just bloated
Well,
from just all
Dolly,
the
hold on a
BBL
second. I want to
surgery
allow.
along with
I
hormones and
want
the
to allow Charmaine.
steroids and
Um,
everything that comes with it.
Dolly,
Okay. Now, so I think
thank you.
I
Hold on
think
one second. I
my
want to see
rose.
if Charmaine
Well, I know what you were saying. Yes, I've
can you
well,
hear.
I mean, I have not been in my transition that long. So what I always told myself that I was going to get surgeries in increments of every 5 years. So I always so my first surgery was my breast, my film queens. And I had got them actually. Well, I took hormones for a very long time, even well before I even knew I was going to transition, or I knew I was going to transition one day. But as a male, I took hormones probably for like over maybe almost 10 years before I even actually transitioned. Um, and so then when I had got my breasts done, I had like a little flesh there. It was a year after I was medically issued hormones because according for your medical provider and for Medicaid or whatever insurance that you have for them to authorize your surgery, you're supposed to be on hormones for a year, and then you have to get the two notes from your doctor, one from your doctor and one from like a psychiatrist or a therapist, depending on what surgery that you are looking to maintain is the different letters that you have to give them. But I know for the breast, I had to get three signatures from my doctor, my therapist, and my psychiatrist. Um, and I remember getting my breast, and he was like, "Well, you know, Charmaine, you're a big girl, and I can fill you out to the max." So I was like, "Okay, you know, I'm just, you know," he was a really, really good doctor, and I was like, "Okay, well, I value your opinion." So then my daughter Aubrey had went with me to my surgery, and I had kept they kept missing my surgery day. So then I finally got it. So then in the midst of having my surgery, because I wasn't fleshy enough for him to fill me out, he gave me 800 cc's, and I think that he said one of them he had to make bigger than the other two or something like that. Um, but I remember waking up and I was just like, "Oh my God, why?" I said, "It's an alien inside of me." And I just remember screaming, and my aunt Tracy was there, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is inside of me? Oh my God!" It kind of felt like something was caving in on my chest. But and that's the only surgery that I've had thus far. I was denied by my doctor who did my breast for facial film. He said he told me that he's not going to touch my face. He said that to him you already have a look that a lot of girls would like to maintain. And I was like, "Well, what about my chin?" He was like, "Charmaine, no." "What about my nose?" He was like, "Charmaine, no." So then he was like, "Well, I'm not going to do it. You can go somewhere else, but I'm not going to do it because to me, you look okay." But even I can say that even the hormones change your body and give you a chemically surges you out. Because I look at some of my old pictures from back in the day, and I was just like, my nose was bigger back then. So I was like, well, the mold surged me out. So
Right,
did y'all hear me?
right. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I just want to start by also saying that all
Oh,
look absolutely amazing. You all are beautiful, and I'm just. Can you hear me?
yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm having the worst technical difficulties ever over here in life. But I know that we have a question about surgery, and I want to definitely get you ladies intake on the question to this the surgery comment. Now, it's this one by Rachel says that surgery, she sees surgery or they see surgery as necessary for their transition. However, it's not necessary for all. It is important to take your time. For me, it took me 3 years to do each surgery I had, and now I'm going to get my facial from this year. That's awesome. So, one of the questions that I wanted to just clarify with you ladies is that I heard you say that pumping and surge and the silicone, and you would all take your time and do it differently.
Yes. So I will say one thing, and I think this is really important for
I
the.
can say,
Oh, sorry. So I was gonna say that
okay. Well, let me
I.
No,
just
go ahead.
go
Was
Oh,
ahead,
I'm
that
sorry.
Consuela. Go
Dolly?
ahead, and I'll come back.
Go
Miss
ahead.
Charmaine.
No, go ahead, Consuela. I'll come back to you.
Consuela.
Okay. So one part of the surgery, which and I think this is really important just to say, and I think for all of us who are talking about the pumping and the surgery, um, part of the reason why we were able to have transitional surgeries, they had used me as one of the cases. So because of my breast, right, and they had gotten to a point where they needed to be removed, I had went through the doctor and and the surgeries were denied, right? So my friend Ruby Corrado and NCTE, Mara Kinsley, and at the time, another activist, um, they used my case of being, needing this silicone to be taken out. Um, they used that as as for, a case to build the transitional surgeries. Um, I, I just, I don't, I'm lost a little bit when it comes to talking about surgeries because everybody has different needs, right? Everybody's different. Everybody wants something different. Everybody wants a different goal. Like everybody wants to look different, but it's also it's very individual to the person, right? It's like what you want to look like, what you feel that you look in the mirror that you want to change. Some people don't need to change. Some people can take hormones at a lower age and they don't have to have surgeries. I think it was like more like getting on the bandwagon, right? And more being like, oh well, you need to get your cheeks pumped. You need to get your lips, you need to get this done. You need to get that done.
Mhm.
Um, in order to feel like a woman, to feel like a transgender woman. And then add the ball world into it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you see all these women, all these femme queens, these trans women, walking these categories, and you're like, wow, I really like that. But at the time, I don't think we had any role models like ourselves now to sit there and say, you know what, don't do that, girl. Don't you do that because this is what's going to happen later. But
Oh,
we're just.
I'm so glad that you said that, Consuela, because I wanted to talk about that actually. I wanted to talk about the cultural humanity of it all, the humility of it all when it comes to the girls thinking about transitioning and the girls who had transitioned before us and how that experience has, because I know we all have a story or in some way, shape, form, or fashion, we either looked up to or we know someone whom we had a conversation with about our transition and just the overall younger versus older. And I know that that sometimes can play a part in how we transition. So I wanted to just touch on that a little bit.
So can I mean who can relate with me when someone says something to you and they scold you, but they
Hmm.
do it to teach you. They
Yeah.
they do it to like they either read you
Hmm.
and that's how I remember like that's how the person when I was what 15 and she was 35,
Hmm.
but she had already fully transitioned. And I remember asking her a question. I was like, she was taking these moans and this, again I was 15 and I was like, what I was like, what are you taking? She scolded me. She got really upset. She was like, you don't know what this is. You don't want this. This is a life-changing game, blah, blah, blah. And she went off to a point where I was
Hmm.
just like, I remember telling her, we got into such a bad argument that I was like, you're not God. I was like, you can't tell me that I can't be something that I want. But thinking back now, that's how she was taught, and that's how we're
Hmm.
taught to be like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, to be like, Hey,
No,
hey,
please. Listen, this is an open on. You can
okay,
curse. You can
all
say
right,
the B word.
okay, okay. You know, sometimes when it be like, bitch, let me tell you something. You ain't got what it takes. Let me tell you, because this is a hard life, blah, blah, and that sort of gives you that push. But
Absolutely.
today, in today's age, it'd be different. Like I could be like, girl, listen, no, you need to go to the psychiatrist, you need to go to the Whitman Walker, you need to do this,
Yeah,
as opposed
yeah.
to somebody in my era, again, when I tried 1989, before
Mm,
some of these girls were even born, like this is how I was taught, right? And that culture of humility is how we are in different stages of our transition and different
mhm,
stages of our life, and how is this young girl going to look at this girl who is seasoned and be
mhm,
able to connect without there being any can't take any like looking down and be like, oh, you don't look, you need more work, you need this.
mhm.
it, it's troublesome because that's how we learn. That's how I learned.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I almost feel like
Yes.
it is a responsibility. It's almost an obligation to how we live our authentic lives, but to be able to live that and share that experience. And what I
Yes.
heard you say is that the more seasoned girls who transitioned earlier, they weren't taught necessarily to be able to share those experiences,
No,
especially when dealing with these stealth lives, and having those hardships of transitioning medically, but having to do a lot way more because it wasn't as accessible, and transitioning surgeries weren't necessarily as afforded to them.
right.
Charmaine, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, I do want to have something to add. But so obviously that there are different eras of
Mm-hmm.
surgeries or how people can go about transitioning. Like nowadays, um, it's more, I would say, not easier, but you have better options available to you versus some of the girls back then who didn't have like the health insurance or the Medicaid that can
Mm-hmm.
assist them with them obtaining their surgery. And the only thing that kind of baffles me, like I had a really good conversation with a girl. She was a older seasoned girl, and she was talking about because this era of transitioning is called the microwave girls because they can okay, I want to transition today. I want to transition today, but tomorrow I get my breast done or I go and get facial film or something like that. So she was like coming for the girls who have it easier to obtain
Mm-hmm.
surgeries through their health insurance providers versus what they had to do. Like back then, they didn't have jobs available. They had to
Mm-hmm.
go out and escort just to make money. They had to lay on the table and get illegal silicone, and
Mm-hmm.
I was telling her well, for me to be birthed in the microwave era, um, I cannot agree with that because if my options of me obtaining surgery back then, because even when I was playing the girl clothes back in the day, I had the option of getting plenty times and I had the money to do it to get silicone, but I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid to get it. So
Mm-hmm.
so now I'm in an era in which I can get these surgeries and I have a
Mm.
safer option that I can go and talk to a doctor. I can follow up with my doctor. And
Absolutely.
I can go and I eventually want to give me a BBL. I eventually may want to get something done to my face, but I have better
Right.
options than a lot of girls did back then.
Mm.
And
Absolutely. And I think that that
and
is a
some girls don't have,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and
No,
some girls don't even have like, because a lot of girls have issues with the illegal silicone, but there are a vast amount of
absolutely.
girls who say that they never had no problems and stuff like that. So I think that, everyone's transition is different. And just like the silicone
Absolutely.
may interact with everybody's body differently. And even though some people get surgery, I known a girl who went out and got her implants, but her body rejected the implants, and she kept
Mm-hmm.
getting infections and kept getting sick, and where she had to get the
Mm.
implants removed.
Absolutely. We have
So
a
you
really
know,
great question from Alan Cropper here. They say, is there any cis women that had an influence in you guys' transition, or did you mold your transition after another trans woman? I think that's a really great question. Kanaya, did you want to pick up on that one?
I mean, I can like for me personally, like for my transition, I've always went after my sister, and if anybody follow my Facebook page, they'll see that we look alike, probably act alike, everything else. Like I've never like my sister outside of even my mother. Like if you look at my mother, like we look just alike. So yeah, after my mother and my sister.
What about you, Dolly? Dolly, is there any yes for the hair flip? Is there any, yes? Is there any cisgendered women or woman that you modeled your transition after, or even another trans woman?
Um, it's funny that Alan asked that question because Alan knows personally. He has met my mother,
Okay.
and we look exactly like twins. It
Mm-hmm.
is very, very creepy that we look exactly like twins. But however, she's not who I wanted to look like
You
in
can't
my
help it.
You
transition.
can't.
No.
You can't. That's genetics, baby.
Yeah.
When I transitioned, to be honest, as cliche or childish as this may sound, when I when I transitioned, I was transitioning. I didn't know what I was going to look like. I know people always say I look like my mama, but when it came down to the surgeries, I took them one picture, and at the time, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta
Erica.
just came out, and I wanted to look exactly like Erica Dixon.
And
And
that's who you
Oh,
look like.
you favor her though. That's the crazy
You,
part. That is so crazy.
I
That's
wanted her
everybody say
nose.
that.
I
yeah.
wanted
You
her
look like her.
cheekbones. I wanted everything Erica Dixon had. I thought she was the most gorgeous, like, woman to me that was on reality TV. I ain't never seen no girl look like her.
That's
Yes,
awesome. Yeah, Erica is
yeah.
a beautiful woman. Consuelo, what about you? What about you?
So, of course, my mom is
Uh
number
huh.
one, right? My mother's the one that was like, when I said like, remember, she said go in the bathroom, let me see what you look like, and then I came out. Um, and then she really did. I mean, I was blessed and fortunate that she was like, okay, she was, was you going to be a girl? She goes, well, let's go shopping, right? And she took me shopping to Nordstrom's. But, but again, like Dolly, like I was like, okay, like I love my mother. She's supportive, and I thought she's amazing, but I wanted to look like my friends, right? I
Mm-hmm.
wanted, and I grew up, and again, I'm an original Allure member, right, from the ball world,
Mm-hmm.
1992, and we had an infamous group of girls in those 90s called the Allure Girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Allure Girls were the ones that we were the DC chapter of trans girls that would go up to New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And would battle the trans girls up there. But because we were from DC, we had to make it classy, right?
Oh wow.
So we weren't
Absolutely.
right. So instead of us being, you know, trashy, right? We wanted
Mm-hmm.
to look classy. And I
Absolutely.
followed that role. And I think the trans woman that really, really, really took me under her wing, and I give her prop to anybody who knows her name is Anne. Anne
Oh.
McGow.
I,
Anne is
I
my
love him.
Anne is my
I know
mother.
her.
Anne is the one that took me under my wing. And she's the one that was like, honey, she goes, we're not she goes, if you're gonna get your cheeks done, you're gonna go up to New York to Joanne. If you're gonna get your hips done, then we went to the peep show. When we went to the peep show on 42nd and 8th, we saw the trans girls, and these girls were so animated, right? So animated that we when we come back to DC, it was that old saying, you got to get on that 3 o'clock school bus. If you don't get on that 3 o'clock school bus and you get clocked, then that's not the name of the game. So
Well,
that was
that's
my inspiration.
awesome. That's awesome. Shout out to shout out to Miss Ann.
Thank you.
Charmaine, what about you? I think I know the answer to this one, but what about you?
Well, well, growing up, people always said
Oh,
that
good
you look like
question.
your mother.
Mm-hmm.
So in the back of my head, even well before I transitioned, I always thought that I looked like a girl. So, so people say that she looked just like your mother. She's a woman. So I was like, okay, well, I look like a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So most definitely my mother, but one of my inspirations was a girl from DC.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the same height as me. I think I was like 1 inch taller than her.
Mm-hmm.
And she is doing it really big now, she's like in LA. And if everybody probably knows who I'm talking about Ashley, Amazon for
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, you know. And I was just like, well, because you will see her, and then she will always be walking around like she was 6'6", walking around in 8-inch
Wow.
stilettos all the time. So you would look up and be like, oh my God, but you was like, that is a woman. Like you cannot tell what the
Tall
hell. It's
women.
like, okay, well, this is she was born like this. So I was given, if she did it, I can do it. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's crazy that sometimes I walk down the street, and in a lot of cases, people be like, hey, Ashley," and I'm giving no, I'm not Ashley, but I do know her, and I love her dearly.
That is awesome. For me, it's always been my mom. It has
Okay.
always been my mother. I to this day, I always accredit me and my mother look just alike. We act just alike. Like I think, like
Excuse me.
all of my siblings. I have told you I have an older brother and a younger brother, and it's always been you and ma, you and ma, you and ma this and you and ma that. Y'all act just alike. And it's so crazy, like everything. Like she's like my best friend, and she's been the epitome of what a woman is to me, strong, resilient and fearless, and I model that after my mother, and I'm truly grateful for her. I saw a question. Someone wanted to know what a BBL was, and I believe you, Charmaine, had said that it is a Brazilian butt lift. It is a surgery that is
Mhm.
a fat transfer. It contours the body and gives you that sculpt, that Erica Dixon butt. Uh-huh. Yeah, it puts it back there.
Okay.
It definitely
I
puts
want
it
it
back
so
there.
bad. I want it so bad.
Yes. Oh, I see another one. Hold on. Looking back on your surge and you getting pumped, is there anything you regret or wish you could do differently? And I know that this will probably be a lengthy answer, but I want to go around in short for the girls that have been pumped, or for the girl. Well, all of us have had a surgery. Is there anything that you regret or you would do differently? And I want to start with.
I'll start off because mine's
Go
just
ahead,
gonna be real
Charmaine.
short.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I do. Well, first and foremost, I don't have no regrets in life.
Mm-hmm.
I embrace my past for what it is, and I appreciate it. The only thing that I believe that I wanted to do differently is I believe that I should have waited a little longer for my breast tissue and things to develop. So before I got my surgery, I could get the big boogalas
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted, So
That
even
you
though with the
have.
hormones, they have gotten a lot bigger. But when I had got my surgery, he wanted to fill me out to 960. So, but due to me not being fleshy enough at the time, he was only able to do 800. So if I would have waited, then he would have been able to fill me out to that 960. So I
Okay.
think I
What about
maybe
you,
should have waited
Consuela?
maybe like
Miss
a year
Pat.
or
So
two
I'm I have a
before I
lot of
even got that.
silicone. I've been pumped, and let me tell you the one regret that I will tell anyone that gets who's gone through the same thing: do not massage it. That is the one regret that I had because I would feel the lumps in my boobs, and I thought by massaging them it would break the knot. That is not the correct thing to do. So I also got my body done. I got my butt done. I got my hips done. I had absolutely no problem. I had my cheeks done. I had I've never had a problem because there was never any kind of massaging or anything. And when I went to the doctor, and what I would do was, this is what they told us back in the day, that you needed to get a rolling pin and massage that out, right? So that's what messed up my breast, right? Because I kept saying, I was like, I feel this lump, I feel this little blunt lot. I'm like, well, maybe I can massage that out. Maybe I can massage that out. And before you know it, because I'm so light, my skin started getting red, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that I tell people, whoever had surgery, and people are still, I mean, not everybody has the opportunity to go get a BBL, to go and
Mhm.
get this hips, to get this big butt, because everybody's not doesn't have that extra fat. So some
Right.
people are actually still going to
Mhm.
get pumped, right?
Well, thank
People are,
you.
right?
They
So
Yeah.
are.
don't massage it. Leave it
Thank.
alone.
What about you, Dolly?
Um, I well, only thing I regret is far as my breast. Only thing I regret is my breast.
Mhm.
If I would have known a couple of years later that I would actually be able to afford my own surgery, I just
Mhm.
wouldn't have got quick. And to be honest, I got pumped in my chest for a ball. Now, if
Mm.
I just
Mm.
was not in the mind frame of trying to be this fab girl that was trying to tip around with all the rest of my little generation girls who was getting surgeries at the time, and I feel like I was left
Mhm.
out. If I just would have waited and sat my ass down, I
Mhm.
think I would have been all right. But I just wanted to be fast at the time. And so that's the only regret. But however, it
Mhm.
was a learning experience. And I feel like I had to go through that journey to be able to tell somebody else.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Kanai? Yeah. Why I say Kanai? Kanaya.
Kanaya. Okay, well, like I'm gonna be real quick. First of
Go
all,
ahead,
you heard
boo.
what Dolly said about the breast, so you
Mhm.
know the silicone breast is a no. Me personally, I just had it removed out of my face. No. Even when
Mhm.
Consuela said no problems
Right.
with the body, I don't have problems with my body, but trust it is problems because when it's cold, it itch.
Mhm.
So it is a problem
Mm.
with silicone. So my thing is, don't get silicone. Period. Point blank. Because you can
Mhm.
pay $500 to get it in, but you're going to pay
Mhm.
20,000 to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just to
Right.
say
Right.
no to silicone. Period. Point blank. It don't matter whether you
Mhm.
massage it, whatever you do. Just don't get silicone because silicone should not go directly in your body. Period. Point blank.
Mhm.
So no to silicone.
Mm. Well, thank you for that. Listen, so I want everyone to know that is watching. Listen, we are not promoting any type of surgeries. We are not promoting any type of silicone injections. We are simply just speaking from
Oh
our
yeah.
experience and our perspective. Now we have another question. Is bottom surgery an important step in your transition to y'all, or does it not matter? Now, as we
I
all
can take
know,
it. I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So as we all know, bottom surgery does not define what a woman is or who a woman is. And for those who do not know what they mean by bottom surgery, they mean gender reassignment surgery. They mean vaginoplasty.
No,
I'll
Letitia.
let the girls, if you, anybody want to jump into that one.
Letitia.
So Letitia's my sister. I've known her since I was 15 when I met
Uh
her in New
huh.
York. So Letitia, yeah,
She
that's
don't even
Letitia.
got still like that. She don't no.
That's Letitia. Come, right.
She don't even have that for real.
Letitia should have
She
originated
just
that
No,
from.
talking.
I listen. I knew
Um,
Letitia when we were 15. I met her in New York. But no, let me talk about this, the bottom surgery
So
part.
yes, okay,
So
good. Yes, let's
I
touch on that.
okay. So when I went through my psychiatric evaluation, because I in that moment I worked in Bethesda and I was
Mhm.
I was in a heterosexual environment where I was
Mhm.
the only trans person there. And I knew that I was different. And I was like, why am I so different? What is it? Is it that I need the bottom surgery to make me feel normal? Like,
Mhm.
do I need that bottom surgery to make me feel that I could blend into society and people weren't going to clock me anymore or weren't going to know that I was openly trans or even
Mhm.
transparent, right?
Mhm.
I went through the whole psychiatric evaluation all the way through, and the psychiatrist at John Hopkins said, "Guess what, Consuela? You're perfect for the surgery. You got your stamp of approval." And I was like, okay, so this is what I have to do, right? And I was like, okay, well, well, sign me up. He goes, yeah, but he goes, well, let me tell you one thing though. He goes, when you wake up from the surgery, it's not going to erase your memory of who you were before. It's not going to erase your memory of what you have done in the past and what you're doing with your bottom part. Like that is your business. Like whatever you do, and I think as trans women, and I'm an openly transparent trans woman, you know,
Absolutely.
I talked about this yesterday, Monroe. I'm about to just go. I'm about to go and say, you know what? Not everybody needs the bottom surgery to feel solidified,
Mm-hmm.
but because when we forget about feeling something, we forget about the sex aspect, right? The
Mm-hmm.
sexual part, the part that as humans we need to sometimes release those endorphins as sexual creatures. Otherwise, if you don't release those sexual feelings, then that's just a
Mm-hmm.
part of life, And I think I grew up in an era
Are you referring
where
to orgasms? Are you referring to an
orgasm.
orgasm?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if you're used, I think
So
this is
you're
my own
saying
belief.
that for you,
This is for
right?
my belief, right?
Okay.
For me, if I'm used to, this is for me. I'm only speaking for myself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're used to
Mm-hmm.
having an orgasm, and I'm 46, right? And I'm used to having
Mm-hmm.
orgasms for longer amount of time, 15,
Really?
20 years, the normal way, and then I'm gonna take that away. That scared me a little bit. It scared
Okay.
me, right? Because we
Okay.
are sexual creatures.
Right. So what? So what about you, Dolly? Is
Yeah.
bottom surgery a must have for your transition if you don't already have it?
It's not a must have.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think it's a must have for anybody to solidify your womanhood. You make your
Absolutely.
own womanhood based on you. So if you consider yourself a woman with or without,
Absolutely.
that's on you. You know what I'm saying? But for me, um, I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable with my complete body. Is it something that I could get done? Yes, because it's just another surgery for me. Do I feel like will I get to the level where so that will be a surgery that will become a factor? Yes. Right now I'm only 31 and I don't that surgery is just not a factor
Mm-hmm.
for me right now. But when it becomes a factor for me, I might, you know what I'm saying, play around with the option of it. But I might be to the point where so it's just not even relevant for me. I have no problem with my dating life and everything. So like, hey,
So I just want to just wrap up. One of the things that the doctor said to me is that your gender is you're a woman between your ears, not supposed to be between your legs,
yeah,
right? So
right,
what's in between your legs is not going to solidify you what's in your ear, in between your head.
exactly.
So my response is this: to each his own. That's not something that like I'm concerned about right now. Like Dolly said, maybe later on down the line, probably not. But
Yeah,
anybody, you just follow your dream. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But
Yeah.
for me personally, if I can't have a child with it, then it's no need for me to get it. So like I don't care. Like I'm comfortable with who I am.
Yeah. Well, for
Mm-hmm.
me, I mean, I am most definitely comfortable, and I honestly feel as though that I'm I'm complete in my womanhood. But
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I would like to get the surgery, the bottom surgery,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that's something that will make me whole, I guess.
For your
But that's
transition.
something that that's most definitely one of my goals in my
Mm-hmm.
transition. But once again, like everybody mentioned, my genitalia does not define me as a woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry,
And I
my
can answer the question to piggyback because I kind of did mention it at first. Ming, Aubrey, we did. I briefly talked about some of the other girls. I think it's just really wrong. Like
mm-hmm.
now, I mean, because everybody's transition is different, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't know why a person is transitioning unless you sit down with them and get their story. And the being as though
Mm-hmm.
that we're in this microwave era of people getting Medicaid surgery, it's like some girls are like, okay, well, I didn't have to, I went and got my breasts, but I paid for them. I didn't have to get Medicaid to pay for mine. So it was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you have an up on me just because you paid for them, but at the end of the day, we both went and got breasts.
We both got
So
surgery.
what's the difference? Like I personally don't see no difference. I mean, maybe the doctors who you went and spent your money with maybe may have a longer practice in their profession of doing it. But just like my doctor who did my breast, he has been a plastic surgeon for a very long time. So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
even before people were getting them on Medicaid, they would go to him
Mm-hmm.
and pay top dollar to get their breast implants. So I had a good doctor when I got mine. But I think it's just
Absolutely.
really wrong. It's just really wrong to shame someone for
Absolutely.
transitioning.
I think I want to
Absolutely.
make it
I think
spicy. I'm going to
well, I
make it,
don't
look,
think
let's make it spicy.
I
I
want to.
think,
I want to answer this really quick. I think that we have to be mindful of people's journeys, whether whether
Yes.
medically by paying out of your money or because things are accessible and healthcare is not only affordable but definitely we're able to take part in that. It doesn't matter. We all are doing what's best for our transition via the experience, via our perspectives. And I think that it's really awesome that we have to remember that it's an individual process. It's an individual
Yes.
process. And what I know to be true most times is that shaming someone else usually is a direct result of envying them in their process. So we have to be really, really mindful of perspectives and experiences.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that that's that. What would you tell the new girls when it comes to socially transitioning? How does it affect your day to day? That's a really good question. Really good question. Go ahead,
Come
Kanaya. I
on,
see you're ready. Go
Kanaya.
ahead.
I feel like when it comes to, like, first and foremost, you shouldn't socially transition.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you
No.
say that you're socially transitioning, that means that you're transitioning for everybody who's around you.
For the
Correct.
Mm.
people, yes.
Yeah. So it's like you have to individually transition. So it's like I feel like kind of sort of like how I said that I had silicone, Dolly had silicone, Consuela had silicone. That's the result of transitioning socially.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you transition individually, then like, yeah, you shouldn't worry about what anybody. I feel like that everybody has their own journey,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it looks like. So it's like you do you and let them do them. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you need breasts. Breast does
Mm-hmm.
not make you a woman. There's women
Absolutely.
who don't have breasts. Don't
Mm-hmm.
ever make somebody say that, oh, because you don't have a period or anything that they
Mm-hmm.
relate to like a woman. Like, never
Right.
do that. Just be yourself. Take your
Yeah.
time and take your hormones. Hormones is the
Absolutely.
only thing that's gonna turn you into a woman.
Absolutely. You know what?
No,
It's interesting because when I first read the question of socially transitioning, I actually
You breaking up.
right. You know, I'm gonna have to end. I'm gonna have to say, like, I come from an era where I'm sorry, Monroe, I can't. It's you're
not
breaking up.
the new pronoun when the new name.
Can I give to this question just so I feel that in today's age, like the microwave era, it's just a different era.
it's just a different era. Exactly.
back when I transitioned, we didn't have those surgeries available. They weren't available.
Exactly.
It's not like we could go get Medicaid, let alone get healthcare for being transgender. Like, I mean, we were
Exactly.
denied healthcare up until about 2012 just for being transgender. That's the only 8 years ago. How many trans people came before us that had to transition in the streets and had to learn because there's no book that teaches us how to transition. We are the authors of these books of us transitioning, and usually what happens is we transition because we see someone else do it. I saw what you did. I saw how you did it. I saw what she's doing, and I saw that that made her look different. So therefore, I followed that lead. Of course, if it was in today's age, right, where you see trans women that are more accepted and more able to live their lives comfortably throughout, like with getting their name
Yeah.
changed, getting their all this stuff. Of course, it's definitely a different era, but I don't think people are gonna socially transition. It's just something that I really, you have to have it in you to want to look different. I don't think people wake up one day and it's like, oh, because she's transitioning, I want to transition, but I don't really feel like a girl. Like it just that to me doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody, go ahead.
Oh no, so I wanted to just respond because
Can I?
this is
Can I?
how I
I would
took
like
the
to
question.
piggyback on. I
Go
would like
ahead.
to piggyback on something that you had said, Consuela. So being as though that we're in this era of social media in which everything is so social. Like I have to post this, I have to post that, I have to post this, and I have to post that. But this is socializing. We're actually socializing, educating people about transitioning. And just like in the midst of socializing with someone, that's just like me asking someone for some advice about transitioning. Now, like, did I take their advice? Only you know about
Mm-hmm.
your transition, and especially in this era of heavy influence through social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, well, I see a girl doing it, but I want to do it too. And you never know what a person is hiding in, because like even for myself, I was always thinking about how people, what took me so long to get to the age of 33,
Mm-hmm.
um, and transitioning, I was just like, I was living my life based upon what others would say about me. And
And
if I
so I think
continue
that
to
that's
live
where
my
they were
life
going with the
like that,
question.
I would
I
have never
think
transitioned. And
so. I think that that's where they were going with the question as far as social transitioning, meaning that like you were saying, Charmaine, that first time you walked outside and you were scared, or what people would say and think, like, how do you feel
yeah.
transitioning socially from people knowing you as the pronoun you were then to the she, her, miss? Like, how do you? What advice would you give the newer girls that have been wrestling with the idea of transitioning and scared to introduce themselves as the new woman that they are becoming, or the new young lady that they are becoming? Like, what would you tell them about the day-to-day interactions? Like, I know for me,
Well,
in
I
my
would say,
transition, I went to work one way and came back, and came back another way. So
yeah,
as far as socially, not
you know,
socially, being not socially following trends, but just what advice would you give someone that is just recently, literally left the job yesterday one way and coming back to work with a whole new pronoun and a whole new name and introducing themselves to their family?
so one thing that I learned, I remember when I got shot and I was in the hospital, right? So my name on the paper was one name, and then the nurse, who I was just like calling at her all the time because she couldn't grasp that my name was Charmaine. And then
Mm-hmm.
she said that she told me this one bit of advice that I always share with a lot of people is don't never forget that, especially in the midst of transitioning, you're not the only one that is transitioning. We
Yeah.
are transitioning with you as well. So this is
Yeah.
a process not only that you're going through, but I am going through it with you. So through
Absolutely.
education, having and socializing and having conversations with people, you are able to educate so they can better understand you and learn something, and something that they may to be able to share to a friend,
Mm-hmm.
in a future case, or who knows, they may be wanting to transition themselves.
Absolutely. What about
So
you,
that's my
Dolly?
bit of
Dolly?
advice, that you're not the only one that's transitioning. People are transitioning with you.
Absolutely.
Um, it's hard for me. I'm gonna be straight up honest because we've been honest, right?
Absolutely.
Young girls don't like me, and it's
I like
because
you.
I'm too
I like
honest
you.
with what I have to say. It's too much. I have a problem with ignorance.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the basics before transition. I'm a biggest person. Before you even could come to me about talking about you want to take a hormone or something like that, did you go back? Are you in high school? Are you trying to do any of these other things that make an adult, that make a woman? You have all these things that you have to put in place, not just taking pills, not just surgeries. And a lot of girls do not want to hear that. They want the fast money. They want the surgery. They not trying to hear, oh, go back to school, take a trade. You know what I'm saying? Resume builder and all these type of things. And they don't go to me. They don't come to me. They go to other people that's going to promote them wanting to do these fast things. This femme queen. I'm never going to give a young girl the femme queen response. That's never my thing. Like, are you kidding me? Not in 2020. I'm not about to sit here and tell you, girl, be the fattest and the beatest thing. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the best thing for you to do is be an educated woman. You know what I'm saying? Do something. Get a
Okay.
hustle. Something that's just not always fast money. Fast money ain't gonna create you in this big area that you want to be in. It's not gonna get you the respect that you actually really deserve. You a young person, you need to take advantage of being young. You need to take advantage of those avenues because I did not do it when I was young, and I had to wait until I was
Mm-mm.
older to get my own personal reality check. So if I
Mm-mm.
could tell a young person at the age that I should have been doing something, you know what I'm saying, to do something besides just taking pills, I will hope that's be respected. But the generation that is going on right now ain't trying to hear that. And if you give them that, you're washed out, you're late, you're played out, you is not the them daughter girl. Period.
So
I
this
just
is
want
a
to add
very
this dysphoria to that. Remember, let's not forget about dysphoria, right? So when
absolutely,
Yeah.
people see outside and what they see, it
Overlook.
overshadows
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
absolutely,
That goes into the question too.
Hmm.
absolutely. It definitely rolls into the next question of. So, how did you feel the first time, if ever, when you got clocked, and how did you feel? Clocked meaning, for those that do not know,
Girl.
people identified you as people said people Nancy, I mean, yeah, Nancy, you know how the girls, you know how the cisgenders and the people that be trying to do the most. How did you feel the first? How did you feel the first time, if ever, you got clocked? For me, it's a scare, it was a scary feeling. It was a scary because it took me so long to be able to feel comfortable enough to walk out the door and who I authentically am for someone else to try to snatch that moment away by letting me know I felt like they were saying to me, "You are not good enough. I see you."
Can I go
So
next?
that I felt. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Can I?
Well, I think that question right there kind of should be, how did you feel the first time that you knew you got clogged?
Oh, good one. Yeah.
Exactly. Because sometimes you
Because
don't even know.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, every transgender woman get clocked, whether you know
I,
it or whether you don't know it. It's all about what type of environment that you're in. Some people are ignorant. Some people are ignorant. Some people gonna be loud and like, whatever, whatever. But some people gonna be like, okay, well, that's a man, she trans, whatever, whatever. I'm gonna keep it moving. So everybody gets clocked, whether you know it or whether you don't know it. Everybody gets clocked. But if you know that you got clocked, it shouldn't matter. Like, I mean, I think that once you get older, like me personally, I love getting clocked. I love it
I, I do
because
too.
that means that's like I don't have to tell you anything. So I love whenever I
Hmm.
get clocked, I love it.
Well, there's two aspects of getting clocked. One is the one when
Yeah.
they can't take is the one that can't take, and then the one when they're clocking you, and then they turn right back around and be like, "Can I have your number, please?" Right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like when the
I,
what the there's a lot of it like there's a lot of insecurities amongst people
well, this is
that
being
they
happy.
portray their transphobia onto us. But what does that really mean? It means that they're really like either digging us. I mean, how many times have I sat on Georgia Avenue, and this is in the '90s, and a group of boys were walking by and they started dropping the F-bomb and being like this, that, blah, blah. That's a dude, that's a man, blah, blah, blah. The same guy who did that came
Yeah.
around the corner and said, I only did that because my buddies were there. But come on,
Mhm.
can I hang out with you? Can I do this with you? So that's a different kind of clock. Or the other kind of
Yeah.
clock is that when you're different, and let's say there's different ways of clocking. Cisgender women clock you, cisgender men clock you, trans women clock you, gay men clock you,
Yeah,
lesbians clock you. There's so many different
yeah,
levels of clocking, right?
Yeah.
And different
I agree.
aspects and different spectrums where sometimes, like you said, Kanaya, I love getting clocked because guess what? If I'm at a bar and I'm talking to somebody and it's hard to sit there and tell your tea to someone that who doesn't know or you think they didn't know, right? And then you get that
Yeah,
rejection. I don't like being rejected. I hate rejection, right? And if you tell the
absolutely.
trade, hey, I was born trans or I was assigned male at birth, and they're like, oh, dude, I don't go that way. I don't go that way. How many times have we felt that way? As
Mm-hmm.
opposed to
Absolutely.
the one when they're like, oh, that's what you
I,
are? All right, well, we can hang out.
I,
Let me give you a car. There's so many different kinds of clock, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
this how I feel. This how I feel though. Like as far as all of us, I know none of us care about getting clocked because we are on this platform right now, and we don't know who's watching or who is doing what. So it's kind of like
absolutely.
I feel like that with the it depends on like probably everybody despite Dolly because like she in a different type of field. But I do feel like with us, it's kind of like who cares? We can't care
Ab-
because we put our stuff out there like on the front lines, so people are gonna know. Like
How about when you get clocked in the bathroom? Let me bring that one up.
oh,
No,
that
so there's
bathroom.
different levels. I'm just saying there's different levels of like
Yeah,
you walking into a female bathroom in North Carolina, Georgia, South, not Washington D.C., not Washington
mhm,
D.C., but somewhere in the Midwest, and you go into that bathroom, you don't want to get clocked because those people are going to treat you bad and poorly, and depending on the state that you're in, right? Because we're in
mhm,
Washington D.C., yeah, we're looked upon as like beautiful creatures and like they open up the doors. But let's go to Oklahoma, and I'm just naming states. I'm not saying, there's different parts of
right,
Washington, like not that
right.
if you go, they're not as progressive as Washington D.C. And therefore, if
Yeah.
I was when I do go and travel through North Carolina and I go to that bathroom, I don't want to get clocked.
Mhm.
Why? Because I don't want to be looked at differently, and I don't want someone to be like, oh, there's a man in the bathroom, right? I don't want that. Not when I'm
Absolutely.
using a restroom.
So I'm glad. That's to my next question because I think we would be doing an injustice if we didn't mention our fallen sisters that have been murdered and killed this year. How do you feel about the trans women of color being killed pretty much on a daily basis, or yearly? The numbers are increasing very rapidly. How do you feel about the violence against trans women of color?
Um, for
Go
me
ahead,
and
Charmaine.
being a victim of gun violence twice in my earlier 6 months of my transition, I could have been one of those girls. You see what I'm saying? And when I had got attacked by three men with a shotgun, and when they put that shotgun to my head, I had saw my death flash before my eyes. I saw people crying at my funeral. I saw me being misgendered in the media because at that point in time my name was not changed. And every time that I
Mm,
hear that one of my sisters is murdered or something, that takes a part of me away because I am a part. You
right.
all are a part of me. You see what I'm saying? So it hurts like hell. It hurts like hell to me, and that's why I, took the position as being the TDOR coordinator here in DC, which stands for Transgender Day of Remembrance, which will be taking place on November 20th. But it's wrong. It's wrong. You just want to murder me just for me being me, and you don't even know me. I'm a great person, but you hate me
Absolutely.
for no
What about
reason
you?
at all because you don't understand me. So I deserve to be murdered. Oh, I deserve to be murdered because of this stigma that everybody keeps talking about. Well, she didn't tell him. But if you clocked me and you know what I am, then you're going to kill me because of that.
Mm,
And even if I didn't tell you that I was
yeah.
not trans, So how the case may be, then I deserve to be murdered? No, I don't be deserve. I don't deserve that, and no, none of these girls deserve that at all. It hurts me like hell every time I hear it. It hurts really bad.
Consuela, what about you?
So we touched this on before, and it would be you know, we try to act like racism doesn't exist, right? And it does, and I as a Latina trans woman growing up with all black trans women, I saw the racism and the disparity, and I saw how people were treated, and I saw how my fallen sisters have like, you know, I was with one girl one day, and then the next day she was murdered in an alley, or you know, I've gone through all that, and I have to say that out of all of the trans women that are most, you know, get the grunt of the violence and discrimination are black trans women. You know,
Yep.
the STD rate is rising amongst like black trans women. The ones that are getting murdered at a high rate are black trans women. You know, I went to Ecuador last November to talk about trans rights, and I don't think we know this, but throughout South, Central, and North America, every 29 hours a trans woman is murdered. And chances are is that either they're Afro Latino or African American. Very seldom are they white, right? And for the Latina trans, we don't let's not forget about Central America, right? Whereas Central America, that's where a lot of the trans women are. They don't even document how many trans women are being murdered, right? And it just makes me sad that
Mm,
society
yeah.
and people think that we're easily disposable.
Hmm. Because even in DC alone, before.
What about you, Kaya?
Well, for me, like I
Go
do the
ahead. No.
train, I do the T door for PG County or whatever. Like last year was my first year doing it or whatever. But I do feel like that it's very sad, and like I feel like that from back in the day, it's kind of like when you hear one of the girls get killed, it's like, oh, she got shot. But I feel like now it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like you hear somebody being found in the water, somebody getting burned up in the car, and all. I feel like now it's really, really getting worse. And I feel like I don't think that no one should be killed, but I kind of felt like that in back in the day when you hear somebody got like one of the girls got shot, it kind of made a little more sense to you versus now when you hear like, oh well, such and such in this city or this state was found in the car burned up, burned, or the people went to the water and found this one out in the water and they pulled this one out and she been missing for days and days and days. I think now it's really getting like really disgraceful and it's getting
Yeah.
worse.
Hmm. Dolly, would you like to answer the question of how do you feel about trans people being murdered?
Um, for me, it's I hate to I hate hearing stories come across my line through Facebook or social media because I don't communicate with so many people, so I never really hear it through word of mouth and everything. So every time I get on like Facebook or some type of social media such as Twitter or anything like that, and I'm seeing these stories of these young trans men and women being murdered, it saddens me. It's very weird for me to hear a lot of the stories because like Kanaya was saying, like back in the day, you know what I'm saying, you hear a girl get shot, it's a girl get shot, and we know 9 out of 10 times what the reason was. You know what I'm saying? Now it's the whole story. There's a
Mm-hmm.
background. There's X, Y, and Z that led up to this situation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the part that scares me and
Mm-hmm.
makes me fearful of my other sisters of trans experience out here because we're all are walking the faith of visibility. We all are
Mm-hmm.
walking the faith of standing strong
Yeah.
and being who we
Mm-hmm.
are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to know that going out your house happy and proud of being who you are and going to help out another sister or another brother that your own life could be taken away from
Yeah.
somebody else's ignorance or somebody just want to be maliciously to attack a trans woman. And now that I know that that exists, that's what scares me even more now, is the intent to seek a trans woman to
Mm-hmm.
kill her. There's
Absolutely.
no yeah, like back in the day growing up, we always heard like from our heterosexual sisters and brothers, you know what I'm saying? Oh, she tricked him, did it this and that. We knew those stories. But
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
we're getting the stories he killed her because he wanted to.
Absolutely. And then
And that's
also,
the part
I
that
think that I
scares
think
me.
yeah, I think that what I hear you ladies say is that the dynamic has definitely changed. It
Yes.
went from it's sad that even then it was common for to hear a girl be killed or murdered because she was not only living her authentic life, but there was some type of tricking or there was some type of misconception. And now it is where they ha- there are men having whole relationships secretly with trans women and then
Hands
decide to
open.
murder them. And then there are men that are going out purposely intentionally seeking out trans women in public spaces and targeting them. And I think that we have to not only bring awareness to that, but we have to continue to talk about it because there are women that are scared. There are trans people, there are trans siblings coming up behind us who are afraid to live their authentic life. And me living my authentic
I'm
life
afraid.
is no excuse for you to use that as a reason to murder me. And I think that we have to continue to be strong, and I think that our numbers of unity will continue to allow us to be free in our decisions to live authentically. So that brings me to the last nugget or jewel that I want to individually go around, and I want you to speak directly to the young lady that is thinking about transitioning or is still on the fence because of the discrimination or the injustice of equality healthcare and living situations, or just simply afraid of their families. What would you say to that young trans person that is now facing that liberating moment, but nervous
Let me
and
get on
scared
camera.
or frightened? Consuela.
So I th- what I tell the younger generation is take your time, number one, and understand that learn how to love yourself first, right? It's okay to feel different. It's okay to feel like a woman in between your ears, right? And your outer doesn't have to necessarily match right there and then. Um, I do believe that I think the trans women are getting younger and younger nowadays. I think people are starting to realize like in accepted situations where if you're more affluent, right, and your family is is more knowledgeable about trans issues, they let their kids transition earlier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
right? Now, I'm gonna throw this into the mix where I think Black and Latina trans women get to transition earlier in life than white trans women, um, because people are set into this box, right?
Hmm.
This box that you're put into is like Dolly said earlier, like you got to finish high school, you got to go to college, you have to have you have to have your life together, you have to have this, you have to have that before you can even actually explore your gender and your sexuality. And certain parents put that in place. They're like, honey, you could be whatever you want to be, but you're going to work, you're going to finish school, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, right?
Hmm.
So depending on depending on how you grow up, because everybody doesn't have
Hmm.
the same experience. Like that, some
Hmm.
parents will say, like Kanaya, like our parents were like, my mom never was like, don't sit like that, don't say like that. But
Yeah.
how about for the girl who her mom and her dad are like, you can't do that, you can't come into this house, and scare the crap out of them to say, you know, we're going to send you to a hospital. We're going to send you to get treatment. We're going to do this. You can't
Mhm.
stay here. They're going to disown you. Of course, those are life changing things. But, we have places now. We have sisterhood and we have people that you can, you can lean on and say to yourself, I need someone to talk to. But again,
Mhm.
like being trans is not, it's not the norm for people, and I think
Mhm.
us as sisters, like that's why we care for each other so much more, because
Mhm.
we're part of this group, right? We're part of
Yeah.
this cult of and it's not a cult, let me take that back.
Yeah.
It's part of
Yeah.
this group that we are all like, guess what, I feel like you. I understand what you feel like.
Mhm.
I understand what all of you women on this broadcast feel like. So that's how I can relate, right?
Mhm.
Everybody doesn't feel that way. And,
Yeah.
until you feel that way, like us, like until you're like, you
Mhm.
know what, I want to look feminine, I want to have hair, I want to put on, then we can have a conversation. But it,
Absolutely.
right,
So
and it,
what I heard you say is, take your time. Take your time to
Yeah.
the young person coming up behind you. Take your time. Thank you for that. Thank you for that nugget, Dolly. What about you? Is there any type of nugget or advice or jewel briefly that you would want to tell the younger person coming up behind us and you?
Um, I think I heard the question because it was messing up. You
Mm-hmm.
said any advice that I want to
Yes.
give to anyone, right?
Yes.
Um, the advice that I would want to give to anybody who's thinking about stepping into transition, the phase that you're at in life right there is going to be the phase that's going to honestly determine a lot of things. And I want you to take opportunity of what's going on at that present time before jumping into a whole different physical look.
Mm-hmm.
Gender always starts within the inside, it starts within your heart. Can nobody tell
Absolutely.
you that
Oh,
you're
good
not a
one.
woman or a man? Can no one take that away from you? But knowing that you had that inside, just take advantage of what is going on and use your development slowly, and
Mm.
everything else is going to fall into place.
Oh,
And when
wow.
everything fall into place, it's going to be so worth, it's gonna be so you know what I'm saying, I say self gratification. You're gonna
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
so good because you're able to look at your journey and see every level, every platform, and you could actually be that next example for that generation that's coming underneath you, to be able to tell them, hey, this is what I did. And I don't know exactly what your lifestyle is, but this is what I did. And if I can use my example to kind of be a parallel to what you're doing, here it is.
Mm.
So
Wow,
that's
that's
my advice to
awesome.
anybody. Take advantage of what you have going on
Mm,
now and just develop yourself slowly and surely.
mm.
And everything is going to be all right. And always put God first. Don't let
Absolutely.
nobody take away your faith, and just
Absolutely.
keep going because
Thank
our
you.
fight is never over.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love what you said about gender being within. That was a really awesome piece of advice right there. Gender is within. It is not a reflection of what breast or hips
Right.
or
Never.
implants or hair or nails. Gender is within. It is not based, it is not surgery based. It is not hormone based. It is not lover based. It is self based. I love that. Thank you for that. Kanaya, what about you?
Uh, well, for me, I just want to say that whatever you do in life, do it for yourself.
Yes.
No matter what decision you make, I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. If you feel like that it works for you, then do it. Because what works for you, and it may not work for the next person. It may didn't work for us, but if it works for you, do it. Also, I always say, take your moans, drink your water, and you'll see a big difference. That's it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Listen, water is very pivotal. Water is very key, honey, to just the skin cleansing, and that's awesome. And speaking of good skin,
mm,
Charmaine,
yeah.
as you sit over there glistening, honey, as
Right.
that melanin is glistening, what would you
Mm.
tell the girls?
So I will tell the girls, do what's best for you. You can take advice from other people, other girls, but only you know the girl that you want to be. No one can tell you what you want to be. Only you know that and embrace that and come to meet, you know, and embrace yourself. And if you do believe in a higher power or God, solidify with your higher power and they will speak to you and be given, well, yes, I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? But first and foremost, it comes with self. Always remember,
Absolutely.
like I mentioned earlier, that, you know, it may be hard. It may be hard. And always keep in mind that you are not the only one that's transitioning. People are transitioning with you.
Oh, good one. Good one. I love when you
Everyone is
said that.
transitioning with you.
Yeah.
So be open
Yeah.
to suggestions and only you know what the girl that you want to be. Take your hormones. Most
Yeah.
definitely drink water. I tell everybody water is the fountain of youth.
That water, honey.
And it keeps you glistening and alive and beautiful and it cleanses your soul.
Mm.
Absolutely. Listen, well, I
But take
thank
the
you, like,
process slow though.
yes, absolutely, for the process being taken slow. I thank you, ladies, for being open, honest, and sharing your experiences and your perspectives on the process of transitioning. This has been an awesome girls' talk. As Consuela put in the chat, 2 hours later, honey. When you get the
Thank
girls
you.
together, we talk, honey. We
What?
share our
For blood.
experience.
I should say, do what?
And
Thank you.
I'm
First,
super
Donna
grateful. I
Brooks.
think I've learned a lot more about each and every one of you. And I want to say thank you to Charmaine. Thank you to putting this together. This has truly been an awesome experience. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Damon Ministries. I want to thank La Maison. I want to thank I want to thank Shug Place. I also want to thank the Ballroom Council. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and joining. This has been an excellent, excellent conversation. I also want to leave you with this. So listen, the process isn't pretty,
Mm.
but it's necessary.
Oh.
And one thing I know to be true is that when you are in your own lane, running your own race, you win every time.
Thank you.
Listen, we love y'all for
Oh, I
tuning
love
in.
that.
Listen, make sure
Thank
y'all
you.
continue to
Thank
tune
you
in. We
all.
also we also have an email. We have an email for anyone that is watching or anyone that will watch this and have any type of questions or for the next girl talk. Because honey, this is not the last. This is the
It's
first
not
of
the last.
many. Shout out to Echoes Consulting for this opportunity. There is an email, and the email is transgirltalkquestions@gmail.com. Again, that is transgirltalkquestions@gmail.com. I thank you guys for this wonderful opportunity. And thank you, ladies. Ladies, you all are beautiful. You all were absolutely amazing. And honey, the girls
Yay.
will talk.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you
Good night.
guys.
See you. Good night.